Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vice President, Global Cloud Group, Paul Mattis.
All right. I think we have a couple new themes for the day. The boo-boo travels fast. And tablet, tablet, tablet. Can't live without it. Hey, thanks. It's me again. We're now going to wrap up the day with a really good, energetic customer panel. Looking forward to it. This is where we really hear from customers like yourselves about how we make it real and key pressing issues that they're confronting every single day. So, can we introduce the panel?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Director, Information Technology, Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Kevin Ragsdale. Manager, Cloud and Platform Infrastructure Services, Rabobank, Colin Chatelier. Head of Infrastructure and Support, Belois Group, Markus MARKSTEINER.
Thanks.
And Vice President, Cloud and Alliance Strategy, Veeam, Danny Allen.
I have to shake it. All right. So I'm going to pivot this way just a little bit. Anybody wearing green socks?
Nope.
No.
Not
I got a little green in mine, but that's all right. So, guys, thanks very much, first of all, for joining us today. Everybody's anxious to hear from you. We're going to have a nice, engaging dialogue. So just take a second, introduce yourself, your role, and then throw on something that's what you found exciting in New Orleans while you've been here. PG-13.
My name is Kevin Ragsdale. I'm the IT director for the Hard Rock in Las Vegas. So I'm in charge of the IT infrastructure for the entire property. One thing I want to do in New Orleans is I want to go to the World War II Museum. I'm a big fan of Stephen Ambrose, so that's
awesome.
what I'm looking forward to doing today. So.
Cool. Colin.
Yeah, I'm Colin Chatelier. I manage cloud and platform for Rabobank International, or Rabobank rather, which is a Dutch domiciled bank. It's retail, it's wholesale, 55,000 customers on the outside, and 7.6 million customers on the outside, and 55,000 internal customers. That's the workers. So. Availability is a big thing for us. What have I been looking forward to in Vegas, in New Orleans? Or am I in New Orleans?
You're in New Orleans? Yeah.
No, I was looking forward to the music. I'm a great music fan, and I've been down Frenchman Street a few times. It's been great.
Awesome. Markus.
Yeah, Markus MARKSTEINER. I'm head of infrastructure and support at Baloise Insurance Group. Act also as a group CTO. We are an insurance company for life and non-life insurance, also for banking services within Switzerland, Belgium, Germany, and Luxembourg. We have about 7,500 employees, and we're serving from the headquarters all the different countries with data center services. New Orleans, also music is the part, have a good party, and meeting some people.
Have you guys all been here before?
No.
That you can remember, or?
No.
No? Okay.
It's been a while, but yeah, one time.
Well, great. Thanks. Oh, Danny. Let's. Sorry.
Danny Allen. I'm the Vice President of Cloud and Alliance Strategy for this company called Veeam. We do. The best part of being here, of course, is being with customers like this. Had great conversations with a lot of Veeam cloud and service providers here, and I like being in New Orleans. I grew up in Canada. You can probably tell from the accent.
I could not tell.
Out about.
Thought you were from the South.
But the French culture. So I enjoy being here for that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So just to get started, Markus, I'd like to start with you. We've talked a lot this week about digital life experiences and how IT and availability can impact those. What, in your organization, insurance, financial services, tell us a little bit about how that thinking and those impact your life or your business and what you're doing at Belois.
I think that our insurance business is not slightly moving, it's directly moving from the traditional insurance company into the digital insurance company. That means for us, availability was in the past important, but not that important, because every sales guy had an offline platform with it in its notebook, so he could even sell his policy to the customer, even if the back-end system, the legacy system, was not available. Nowadays, they switch into the online application part. They also bring to the customer new applications based on smartphones, based on tablets, based on the web. So the availability is turning over to a key success factor for us in the data center. And if I'm not able to deal with that, the business is very fast going out into the public cloud. So availability is for me now one of my key success factors for the data center.
And the user experience as they relate to your company is completely changing in
Absolutely.
terms of how they view you and the tools that they use to access and interface with your organization.
Absolutely. I mean, we have insurance contracts running for years today, and they are shifting over that they want to not sell you a car insurance anymore. They want to sell you mobility insurance or add some additional services to our insurance company where we say, okay, how can we avoid claims even if they're not occurring now? So we add services like safety consulting for household insurance into our products. And this is a completely change of the insurance industry. And therefore we have to be faster in development, faster in coming to the customer.
That's awesome. Colin, I'll ask you the same question. You know, banking, we hear a lot about user experience and what that's like. Tell us a little bit about this aspect of your business.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think I mentioned that we brought two banks together in Rabobank, the wholesale and the retail, and really it's a completely different experience. If I look back 3 or 4 years ago when I was just looking after wholesale, then you'd run a financial transaction, try and settle a trade, and the most important thing was to be able to settle that trade on time. You know, if you didn't settle that trade on time, then there were fines, there was, the regulators would call you. And that's what availability meant to me. Now, the whole thing's changed with retail. I've got high street customers now who used to come to the bank. I mean, everyone here, well, not everyone here, all the people here of my age, when they opened a bank account, they'd go to the bank account. They'd go to the bank teller, ask them for a slip of paper with a balance on. I bet you can't. You never seen that before in your life.
I did that too once.
Okay. Hole in the walls weren't even there then. So, you know, now nobody visits the branches. In fact, the branches are there really as a mechanism to communicate with the public rather than a mechanism to perform banking. So people want to make payments from the back of a bus, from the back of a taxi. They want to check their balance as they're walking to their job. And they're really not tolerant as they were before. You know, you'd go to a bank before and the bank was shut. The bank isn't shut anymore. Now everything is always available. And if it isn't always available, we'll be tweeted. Now, I didn't realize until I started looking after the retail business that tweeting was a negative rather than a positive. But we now have thresholds of the number of tweets which can fire an alert. So alongside the alerts for systems falling down, systems performing badly, the number of tweets and graphs are monitored day and night. People will take interventions. If those things aren't looking smooth, then somebody's investigating it. It's as much of a reputational risk as it is an operational risk.
Yeah, we talk about that in our availability report about the brand damage that can ensue when you don't support the user's expectations of those digital life experiences. Anybody here ever tweeted out in anger against the company, like an airline, perhaps?
Careful there.
Yeah, it just really emphasizes what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Kevin, from your perspective, you know, being in the hospitality business there and digital transformation strategies pervading all industries, tell us a little bit about how digital transformation is impacting your team and your team's work and what you're doing at Hard Rock.
Well, the main thing there is, it's what we've been talking about, is everything's sort of integrated for the user experience at the Hard Rock. It's not just gaming, it's shows, it's POS systems when they go to buy things, because we have reward cards, so they expect when they go buy something at a restaurant that their points accrue and flow through to their gaming site so they can get bonuses or comps or whatever, right? So it's all about integrating all these together and making them more available to them, you know? Like things we're looking into on the availability side or for transformation is moving as much as we can to their phones. You know, we want to be able someday to be able you don't need tickets anymore. You walk up to a machine, you put your phone down, it automatically logs you in, it shows who you are, it offers you promotions based on your spend or whatever, right? So all these systems have to be integrated and I guess digitize them basically so their experience is their phone, because that's what everybody, I've heard that, you know, since I've been here. That's your experience is your phone. Mm-hmm. So we want to try to get it someday at least to where that is your portal into our playground at the Hard Rock, you know. So that's what we're trying to move towards and do. So.
And how, if you can talk about this, how are cloud technologies and cloud platforms helping you? How are you thinking about those in terms of your digital transformation efforts?
A lot of what we're doing cloud is internally, like Office 365 is something we're moving to. We're looking for cloud for Veeam.
And you're backing up Office 365, right?
Well, we're in the middle of implementing Office 365, but we will be.
But you've got an availability strategy for it.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, good.
The sort of issue we have with cloud and gaming is that it's heavily regulated, and we have data locality requirements where our data has to maintain or reside in Nevada. So. So like Azure for us is great, however, we can't guarantee that data remains inside the state of Nevada. So we're trying to find ways to, like we have the super NAP there, so it's not, you know, we have that option, but we have to make sure our vendors can guarantee us that it stays in Nevada, which is good for super NAP because like in Reno and Las Vegas, they're going to be putting in these data centers so we can have multiple site redundancy still, but still maintain our gaming compliance requirements.
So really looking at a multi-cloud strategy where for some things, because of geolocation issues, one type of cloud infrastructure, maybe for others, another type of cloud infrastructure. Right. So Danny, as you listen to our customers here and talk about these real examples, one question I think would be right up your wheelhouse there is, you know, securing this infrastructure and kind of the key things to think about, because these user experiences that we talk about, in addition to availability, security is a huge issue. Can you just talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, so when it comes to security, one of the things that I always bring up is that the agency that no one likes to talk about, in the United States at least, runs the intelligence community on the cloud. And so those organizations that are concerned about security, I believe, should look to that the cloud is not only here, but it's being used. We heard Mark Rusinovich say that these large financial institutions are moving it to the cloud. So it's not a question of if it can be done. The question should really be how it can be done. And so certainly we believe that there are things that you should look to. So the first thing that most people do is simply compliance. And there's a lot of compliance certifications, and depending on the vertical and industry that you're in, obviously there needs to be the SSAE 16 compliance or the SOC compliance with the cloud provider. However, compliance is a checkbox that doesn't necessarily always equate to security. And so what I have had some great conversations with some of the cloud providers here over the past few days who actually look to that as their specific value add when they move to the cloud. And so I know that there's one out on the show floor I was talking to that actually can do security attestation down to the chip level to say, hey, if you're going to run this workload, if you're going to fail over or do disaster recovery, it needs to be on a certified chip. And so we have these partners right now that are doing very granular, low-level security controls. The other thing that I would say, though, is anytime the data leaves what is your premises, you should think about encryption. And so we spend a lot of time talking to cloud providers, and what I recommend to organizations is that you have end-to-end encryption from the very beginning through to the retirement, through the life cycle of that application. It's not sufficient to have encryption just on the runtime of the service or on the storage of the service, but also through the backup and archival and full life cycle of that. And so we have partnerships, again, that highlight these capabilities with the Veeam platform.
That's awesome. So Marcus and Colin, how do you see that intersection of availability and security? We hear a lot about that. I know we've been doing a lot of conversations about it. How does availability play into sort of an overarching security strategy that you might have?
I mean, to have my data secure means also they are available. So this is coming all together, and for us as a highly regulated market in insurance, especially in Switzerland, and with the bank data in behind, we cannot use at the moment these cloud offerings which are available. But for me, as a data center provider, I try now to set up the same cloud infrastructure within my data center. So to give the business the same experience as they have in the cloud. And this makes me more secure for my data. I can also use this as a brand for our customers to say, okay, your data is safe. It's in Switzerland. It's a Swissness. It's like a chocolate, or in the mountain, the banking safes. So we can really act with also with marketing part on this, and this makes our customers more safe, and it's also in our claim, simply safe.
Simply safe.
Simply safe.
Colin, I mean, this has to be a huge issue for you, I'm sure.
It is, but so recently Rabobank's committed to a cloud-first strategy. That doesn't mean we've actually implemented the cloud-first strategy yet, but we have a cloud-first strategy, and we're now setting out policies, procedures, and security is one of them. So, yeah, absolutely. If there's a data breach in banking, then very soon the fines are going to add up, and actually, more important than that, the customer loyalty is going to be lost. Encryption, you talk about encryption. It's an interesting one because keeping those encryption keys safe is sometimes thought of as just as dangerous as having encryption or not having encryption. So that's one thing we worry about. And then the second thing we worry about, of course, is cost and speed. And that's because if you're going to deduplicate the data, that once you store it, you can't tend to do that with encrypted data.
Mm-hmm. Challenge. So, Kevin, if you hear folks talk, what are some of the key challenges as you go to implement either cloud platforms or others? What are some of the, from an availability perspective, what are some of the biggest challenges you and your teams face in making sure that you've really got a solid data protection availability strategy in place, and how are you working to overcome those?
Well, I guess the main challenge for us is performance, just because we have to have these systems backed up regularly, but they're transactional based since it's all based on gameplay. So we have to make sure when we do these availability strategies that we don't impact the customer play, So we have to make sure we size these and test them and make sure we have the right types of backups or the speed and connections to our infrastructure to be able to handle that sort of thing. Just because we use SQL Server, right? So we just have to make sure that when we're backing those things up, we're not causing performance issues for people on the floor. So that's the big thing we've got to do.
So don't impact the folks that are feeding the machine at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And how is the cloud? I know we talked earlier about your data protect or geolocation issues or issues in data sovereignty, so to speak, inside of Nevada. What are some of the other? Where do you see sort of taking the cloud next in where you're going with your org?
I'm really interested in the stretch for SQL. I mean, so much of what we do is database driven. Pretty much everything's data driven. So I'm really interested in moving our database systems out to the cloud using Azure, basically, if we can get the locality thing figured out. Because you don't have to worry about maintenance and upgrades and performance and scale. You can just do all of that basically instantly. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that we're really interested in doing. It's just, our requirements are kind of get in the way of that a little bit.
Regulatory. Yeah. Markus, how about you? What are some of the key challenges to implementing your availability strategy that you've run into, and how are you working to overcome some of those?
So one of the key challenges is actually that with the new regulation coming up in Europe, the GDPR part, I think the pressure will be higher onto the regulator that they open also their mindset for cloud services. So for me, as data center providers at the moment, the key part is actually bring my data center into the cloud locally in my private data center, make it ready to move slightly into the cloud, bringing up playgrounds for the business part so that I don't have any shadow ITs within the organization. They can use, they can try, they can figure out, and then when the regulator is ready, when we are ready, we slightly move these services into the cloud. So this is actually the key challenge we have today, and also to bring up a new organization form, break up the silos, the traditional silos in the organization, be more agile, work together with the business, empower the people from the engineering up to the business analyst part, so that we understand our business faster and we can react on their demands directly.
Awesome. So you mentioned a key thing that I'd like to ask you guys about as well, shadow IT. We know with readily available cloud infrastructures, anybody can go out and provision servers and start deploying solutions. We think of monolithic IT having control of everything, but we know that that's not the reality. So do you have any examples of how that's impacted you, and then has that in a negative way from a, say, an availability standpoint where you've had some kind of issue, has that shadow IT sort of bitten you a little bit in some way?
Well, I'd have to say officially no.
Officially no. Yeah.
So there's the answer. No, I think shadow IT is a threat, but also a driver.
Yeah.
The reluctance of a lot of the IT folks, the traditional IT folks, to go to mode 2 IT is really broken down a little bit by shadow IT and the whole thing being taken out of our hands. So we can either let the work drift off into the cloud, into a third party, or we can get with the program. And I think that's what we're seeing. With all of our customer-facing applications now, we're moving to a mode 2 development program. We're seeing DevOps, we're seeing my own team are more involved rather than handcrafting individual servers. We're involved in infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. And then we have the difficulty of negotiating with our systems teams to give them the correct level of privilege without giving them a dangerous level of privilege. So that then brings in additional pieces of software such as Ansible, where we can give these guys a sandbox to play around and build their application, get their application right, create a kit with something like Ansible, and then press a button to deploy it into test, press another button to deploy it into production, and all of a sudden we've got an accommodation that sort of works. So I see shadow IT as more of a driver to get us up to speed than a threat.
Cool. Next to last question. So each of you, if you had in each of your industries, if you had a crystal ball of what you see as the next big thing that you're going to have to work through in your organizations, what would it be?
For us, it's already starting to happen, but it's going to get really big, and that's the ability for someone to, we talked about this a little bit earlier with the phones, but to be out at the pool and play, right? That's the big thing that's I think is coming for Las Vegas, to sort of combat online gaming, if nothing else. So you can sit at the pool and still play poker or play blackjack or even play a slot game if you want to, kind of wherever you are. It started like, there's something called Easy Play that's being started for tournament play, where if you're in the state now, you can register and actually play tournaments when they have scheduled tournaments at MGM properties. So that's going to be rolling out all over the place soon. So we're going to have to be able to provide an infrastructure that allows our guests to do that sort of thing. I think that's sort of that's where it's going, I think.
Yeah, that seems like it could be something that might generate massive amounts of data, I would think. So.
Yeah, and then it's all wireless. So you got to worry about encryption and security and that sort of thing. So it's going to be interesting, I think.
Cool. Markus, next big thing?
I think that at our side in our industry that it just has begun. So we are now looking for also different models where we can say, okay, we are not able to be that agile or to be that creative or innovative by ourselves. So what we are looking for is now for startup companies, for smaller ones, which doesn't even know what an insurance is, but they have the mindset of the user experience, and we joined together with them, and they develop for us new apps. So this is actually the next step we're going further. And as I mentioned, going away from traditional insurance policy selling up to insurer habits, and this will be the next generation of insurance.
That's awesome. Colin?
Well, I'd say a lot of people here started off in the backup data protection rather than management, and you look at the role there as a backup engineer. We've always been under pressure for delivering nothing. You know, we've been seen as a colossal waste of money, and I remember going to my manager years ago and being very proud of an achievement that the team had made, and he just shook his head and he said, "It doesn't matter what you do, nobody's going to be interested." And
ouch.
And it's sort of quite right. I think colossal waste of money and backups go hand in hand, and the bigger the amount of data that you're protecting, then the more money you're spending. So let me give you some figures then. Last year, my retail business, the volume of backups increased by 40% in a year. in my wholesale business, the volume of backups increased by 15%. In the previous year, it was 30%, so I guess we did a good job somewhere. The amount of centralized storage increased by 20% last year. So all of these things are building up a volume of data that we take and we store. Each night, we take 4,500, 5,000 backups. We restore data from 1 or 2 of them. And how can you justify that, really? So I think that the next big thing is trying to monetize our backups, trying to get some value out of those backups. So I think rather than pull the data in and store it on a tape, we pull the data in and store it on a disk where it's accessible. Rather than pull the data in and store a file name, we start to collect metadata about that data and be able to mine that data and get some value out of it. I think that's the next big thing, because I think there's a whole pool of value there that nobody's tapped into yet.
So Danny, I think you might have something to say about this. I want a human moment from you. Anybody watch the newsroom? Go.
The cloud is dead. Does that work? So actually, I'll spin off that, the cloud being dead. The cloud is a tool in our toolbox that we use to solve real problems, right? And so everyone talks about the cloud as being the destination for all of us. And my belief is that it is simply another tool in our arsenal that we use to deliver services to our users in the Hard Rock Cafe or to a banking or to insurance industry. And so what we have to do as an industry is to build in availability and security in all these concepts so it is transparent and it elevates the business itself, not IT. We've been in this mode of supporting the business as IT, and now we're kind of shifting into enabling the business for IT. But I look forward to say, how can we add value to the top line of the business? And you mentioned something really interesting. We've aggregated all this data. How can we leverage it for better purposes, right? Use it to drive data insights and better models for the organization that we can bring services to our customers that we haven't been able to in the past.
Yeah, I think untapped potential, absolutely. So just in the couple of minutes that we have left, I'd ask each of you, we hopefully have a great relationship with Veeam and what we're doing. Talk a little bit about what you'd love, maybe react to some of the things that we've talked about this week, and if you want to share something you'd like to see from us moving forward.
I'd really like you to be able to support an iSeries IBM, but I don't, because so much of what we do still runs on an AS400. Our whole backend systems do, right? And it would be really nice to be able to use our Veeam backup system to do all the Windows and Linux stuff, as well as an iSeries. I mean, that would really help me. So, but.
That's new. I don't think we've ever.
That's what I mean. It's such a, you don't think about them really because people talk about it, but in Las Vegas especially, they're everywhere, Yeah. And they run critical applications all the time.
Fair enough. Colin?
So as a Veeam customer, we started up in Hyper-V. We were looking for a solution to protect our blades and our clusters. When someone accidentally blew away a cluster, trying to use a first generation backup product just didn't cut it. It took days or maybe even a week to recover. To be able to do that with Veeam, you could get it back up again in minutes or hours. So that's good. The next thing is OpenStack. OpenStack and OpenShift, and so I'd really like to see some protection in KVM.
Markus?
We started a year ago with Veeam for replication to our third data center, disaster recovery data center. So we are now going into the next phase where we also go for the physical hardware. For me, just keep on going. Keep on going on the same track, because also during this year, together with the support to consulting, the salespeople of Veeam was very easy to deal. So keep this spirit up and running.
Awesome. Let me just ask. Coming out of this week, you're going to go back home. Maybe after the party tonight. I don't know. And you're going to go back to your lives and back to work, starting on Monday. Coming out of this week, what's one thing? On all the things that we've announced and where we're going, what's kind of one thing that you're most excited about? You're thinking, yeah, that's something we've got to go maybe think about or get after.
For me, actually, it's the RAFS support and the block cloning. For me, that's a big deal for our storage, because we basically doubled our storage from last year, because we virtualized pretty much everything last year when I started there. And we bought our Veeam system, which was fine, but we started backing up. We were like, we can back all this stuff up. It's super easy now. So we started backing it all up, and we completely filled our storage up. So we had to double our storage capacity and be able to use REFS and be able to use backwards incremental, I think, will be good for us. So that's why I'm excited. That's the stuff I've been focusing on since I've been here. So.
Cool. Colin?
Yeah, I popped into a presentation yesterday, and one of the things that really jumped out at me was the granularity of recovery. So I saw a recovery slide there that seemed to indicate that I could recover down to sections of 15 seconds. 15 seconds, so I could collect 15-second chunks for 6 or 8 hours and 2-hour chunks for 2 or 3 days. And I thought that would be, with the speed of recovery of Veeam, that would be a very powerful tool. And that's something that I think I'm going to take home and see if we can try out.
Sweet. Markus?
I think we're going to take home the file service support part we heard yesterday, and also the thinking of how can I bring now my long-term backups into the cloud, into the Swiss cloud somewhere, and lower my backup footprint, because there we have a hell of a lot of old backups which probably you never can use anymore, but you have to keep them for the regulator.
Yeah, that's exactly why we did it. So, well, gentlemen, thank you. We're just up on time. Guys, thank you so much. Let's have a round of applause for our panel. Really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.